Hello, guys. They say, what's there in a name? I say there's a lot to a name. When you pick in a name for your restaurant, you have to make sure that the name you pick in is catchy and people get attracted to that because that will become your brand eventually and you want it to be catchy, right? Now, just to give you a personal example, when I was at the age of 18, I had a dream to open a cafe, and I was gonna call that the Slim Shady Cafe because at that point, I was a huge fan of Eminem. Now, friends of mine used to, take a great deal of fun out of this, and they used to laugh at that, and you know, that would bring a smile to everyone's face because that would sound very unusual to them, right? So and obviously, you're not gonna call your cafe or restaurant the Slim Shady Cafe or Slim Shady Restaurant. However, the point I'm trying to get at is picking a catchy name could always work to your benefit. Now, just to give you a bit of background, I went to school in Bangladesh and I was there until the age of 18 and I lived there until that age. So obviously, when I went to school, I had friends who came from very wealthy family as well as friends who came from middle class or below middle class families. There was a trend, at least in my observation, that among the rich kids, they used to have really fancy names, or at least that sounded fancy at that point of time, whereas kids who came from middle class families had really common names and easygoing names. Obviously, the trend has changed nowadays. Obviously, thanks to Google for that. You know, nowadays I see that in most cases, people who pick really really complicated names for the kids. Now, those names may have great meanings to them, but that's just my personal observation that that's how they go about it. When it comes to picking the name for your restaurant, you don't want to do that. I understand that you wanna make it sound fancy, you wanna make it sound attractive, but in order to do that, when you pick a really complicated name that will have a negative impact. Do not call your restaurant supercalifragilisticexpialidocious restaurant or cafe, because that is really complicated. I mean, I understand this fancy, what I'm saying, but that is not how you go about doing that. Another example would be, you can call your cafe Bon Appetit, or you can call your restaurant Bon Appetit Restaurant, or however a French would pronounce it. But to me, it pronounces as Bon Appetit. Now, it's not my fault that I don't know French. So, the point I'm trying to get at is don't pick complicated names because if you do that, a lot of people may be uncomfortable saying it out or telling their friends about your restaurant because, they just hesitate because if they get it wrong, if they pronounce it wrong, then people may just laugh at them, right? So they don't want to, get laughed at. So, that's bad for you. Whereas if you just called your cafe something really simple, then, it would be it'd be just easy to get the word around. Also, you don't want to pick a name very specific to uh, your food concept. There are pros and cons to that. I'll talk about the cons that you need to be mindful of. If you open a pizza shop and if you call it Shirley's Pizza, then that's great. If it works, that's fine, right? But you know in long run what may happen is you may have to change your food concept, or you have to bring something new which are not quite aligned with the concept or the name that you picked. In that case, you may have to contemplate changing the name later on, whereas if you had just called it Shirley's in the beginning, it would have been so much easier in terms of not worrying too much about changing the name later on when you actually change direction. So that is something you also keep in mind. So finally, guys, you can actually pick a name by the location of your property or the shop. So for an example, if your shop is located in Sydney at 20 George Street, you could call it 20 George Street Cafe according to the address. The pros to that would be it would be a lot accessible. It would be a lot easier and accessible for people to find a restaurant. However, if it's a rental property, you don't want to pick a name by the location because you're not gonna be there forever. So that may not be a good idea. These are the few key points I wanted to mention. There's a tons of research out there that you should do for yourself before you pick a name for your restaurant, because picking the name is part of your business as well. It will become your brand in future, so you have to be mindful of that, guys. Do not take it lightly. Just put some thought to it, and just take your time. Just sit in a place where I'm sitting, just look at the background, it's pretty nice out there. Now some of you may say that, okay, you sound like a genius, but I'm not going to follow what you just said. I'm going to call my restaurant restaurant X or restaurant zero, for an example. Are you telling me it's not going to work? Absolutely not. I'm not telling you that. I mean, business always comes down to the principle, and it's the principle, the same principle I've been saying over and over again across the industry, regardless of where you are, what kind of food you're doing. It is really the principles that you need to focus on. However, you may call it a thought-provoking video, just to enlighten you a little bit about just to give you direction in terms of choosing a name for your restaurant. So the message in brief today, you have to pick a name, need to make sure it's catchy, but it's simple, and you do not want to be too specific in terms of picking the name for your restaurant. When you pick a name, you should be able to justify as to why you picked that name. And you know one day, if you're successful, that will become a brand, and you'll take a lot of pride in that. Thanks for watching today's video. Until next time, peace out.